I found my daughter, 15F, sneaking into our house at 2 a.m. totally drunk.
Okay, so I don't know where to start, but yeah, I will just start here. I'm hoping to get some advice and maybe some comfort from you all. I'm a 42-year-old mother of a 15-year-old daughter named Lily. For the past few months, I've been losing sleep over her behavior, and I feel like I'm at my wit's end. I need to share my story, and maybe someone out there has gone through something similar and can offer some guidance. Lily has always been a spirited child, full of energy and curiosity. She's my only child, and I've tried my best to give her a loving and supportive home. Her father and I divorced when she was 8, and since then, it's been just the two of us. We've always had a close relationship, or at least I thought we did. Things started to change when she entered high school. Lily began hanging out with a new group of friends, and I noticed her becoming more secretive. She used to tell me everything about her day at school, her friends, her crushes, but now she was shutting me out. She'd come home late, make up excuses about study sessions or group projects, and spend hours locked in her room. I tried to respect her privacy, thinking it was just a phase and that she needed space to grow. But then I started noticing more troubling signs. She'd come home smelling like alcohol, her clothes disheveled, and her eyes glassy. When I confronted her, she'd brush me off, saying I was overreacting, and that everyone her age drank a little. I was worried, but didn't want to push her away, so I tried to tread lightly. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the front door creaking open. I got out of bed and found Lily sneaking back into the house. When I asked where she'd been, she got defensive and stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. The next morning, she refused to talk about it, insisting that I was being too controlling and that I needed to trust her. I wanted to believe her, to trust that she was just being a typical teenager, but my gut told me something was wrong. I started noticing that she was spending more time on her phone, constantly texting or receiving calls from people she wouldn't talk about. She became more irritable, snapping at me for asking simple questions about her day. It felt like I was losing her, and I didn't know how to reach her. A few weeks later, my worst fears were confirmed. I was cleaning her room while she was at school, a habit I'd picked up in an attempt to feel closer to her, and I found a stash of empty liquor bottles hidden under her bed. My heart sank. How had I missed this? How had things gotten so out of control? That night, I tried to talk to her again. I showed her the bottles and asked her to tell me what was going on. Instead of opening up, she exploded in anger, accusing me of invading her privacy and treating her like a child. She stormed out of the house, and I was left standing there, feeling more helpless than ever. Desperate for answers, I started paying closer attention to her behavior. I noticed that she was often picked up by older men, guys who looked to be in their 20s or even older. They'd wait for her in cars a few blocks away, and she'd hop in without a second thought. I couldn't understand why she was doing this. What could these men offer her that she couldn't find with friends her own age? I reached out to a few of her friends' parents, hoping they might know something I didn't. Most of them were as clueless as I was, but one mother, Sarah, confided that her daughter had mentioned Lily hanging out with some sketchy older guys. She didn't know much more, but it was enough to confirm my fears. Feeling more isolated than ever, I confided in my sister, Julia. Julia and I have always been close, and she's been like a second mother to Lily. When I told her everything, she was as shocked and concerned as I was. Together, we tried to come up with a plan to reach Lily. Julia suggested that maybe Lily was acting out because she felt neglected or misunderstood, and that we needed to find a way to connect with her on her terms. Julia came over one weekend, and we arranged a girls' night at home. We cooked Lily's favorite dinner, rented some movies, and tried to create a relaxed, judgment-free environment. At first, Lily was resistant, rolling her eyes and staying glued to her phone, but eventually, she started to open up, just a little. She mentioned feeling pressured at school, overwhelmed by expectations, and unsure about her future. It was a small breakthrough, but it gave me hope. However, the next weekend, she was back to her old ways. She snuck out again, and this time I followed her. I know some of you might think OP should have more faith in her daughter, but it's not that easy when you're worried sick about their safety. I watched from a distance as she met up with a group of older men outside a bar. They handed her a drink, and she laughed, looking so carefree and happy that it broke my heart.
I wanted to rush over, to drag her away from them, but I knew that would only push her further away.
Instead, I waited until she got home and tried talking to her again. I told her how scared I was, how much I loved her, and how I just wanted her to be safe. She softened a bit and admitted that she liked the attention from the older guys because they made her feel special and grown up. She said they treated her like an adult, unlike everyone else who still saw her as a kid.
This revelation was like a punch to the gut. I realized that in trying to protect her, I might have been treating her too much like a child, not giving her enough credit for being capable of making her own decisions. But how could I find a balance between giving her the freedom she craved and ensuring she stayed safe?
I decided to seek professional help. I found a family therapist who specialized in adolescent behavior, and Lily reluctantly agreed to go with me. The therapist, Dr. Harris, was wonderful. She created a safe space for Lily to express her feelings without judgment, and for me to learn how to better communicate with my daughter. Through therapy, I learned that Lily had been struggling with the divorce more than I realized. She felt abandoned by her father, who had moved across the country and rarely kept in touch. She was looking for validation and affection in all the wrong places because she felt like she wasn't getting it at home. It was a hard pill to swallow, but it gave me the insight I needed to start repairing our relationship. Dr. Harris also helped me understand that Lily's behavior was partly a cry for help and partly a way to assert her independence. She suggested that I find ways to empower Lily, to give her more responsibilities and opportunities to make her own decisions, while still setting clear and consistent boundaries. This is right now. I wonder what everyone here thinks, and it would mean a lot if you have ever been in such a situation, could help me. Update 1. We started small. I gave Lily more freedom with her curfew, as long as she kept me informed about where she was and who she was with. I also encouraged her to invite her friends over to our house, hoping to create a safer environment for her socializing. It wasn't easy, and there were still arguments and setbacks, but gradually, things began to improve. One of the biggest turning points came when Lily started showing an interest in photography. She'd always loved taking pictures, and I decided to surprise her with a good quality camera for her birthday. She was thrilled and started spending more time exploring this new passion. I encouraged her to join the school's photography club, and she even started a small side project taking portraits of her friends. Photography became a positive outlet for her emotions, and I noticed a change in her demeanor. She seemed more confident and less inclined to seek out the dangerous thrill of sneaking out and drinking with older men. I made a point to show genuine interest in her work, asking her about her projects and going to her club's exhibitions. Despite these improvements, the road wasn't always smooth. There were still nights when Lily would come home late, smelling of alcohol, and we'd have the same painful arguments. I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid of saying the wrong thing and pushing her away again. Our extended family also became involved. My parents, who lived nearby, started inviting Lily over more often. They provided her with a different kind of support. Unconditional love from her grandparents, who doted on her and made her feel valued. My mother in particular became a confidant for Lily, offering her wisdom and guidance in a way that didn't feel as confrontational as my attempts sometimes did. One night, my mother called me, her voice filled with concern. She told me that Lily had confided in her about one of the older men she'd been seeing, a guy named Mark. He was 24, far too old for her, and had been buying her alcohol and taking her to parties. My mother was worried, but didn't want to break Lily's trust by telling me everything. This revelation terrified me. I knew I had to intervene, but I didn't want to alienate Lily further. I decided to have another talk with her, but this time I approached it differently. Instead of accusing or lecturing, I told her about my own teenage years, the mistakes I'd made, and the regrets I had. I wanted her to see that I wasn't perfect either, and that I understood how easy it was to get caught up in situations that felt good in the moment, but were harmful in the long run. To my relief, Lily opened up a bit more this time. She admitted that she liked Mark because he made her feel important and grown up. She knew it was wrong, but she didn't know how to stop. She was afraid of losing the sense of belonging and excitement that came with being part of his world. We made a deal that night. I promised to give her more freedom and trust her more, but she had to promise to stay away from Mark and the dangerous lifestyle he represented. She agreed, albeit reluctantly, and I knew it wouldn't be easy for her to break away from him. The following weeks were a mix of progress and setbacks. Lily stopped seeing Mark, but it was clear she was struggling with the loss of that connection. She became more involved in her photography, and I encouraged her to take it even further. I helped her set up a small online portfolio and reach out to local photographers for mentorship opportunities. Seeing her passion grow and her confidence increase was incredibly rewarding. Our family dynamics also began to shift in positive ways. I made an effort to spend more quality time with Lily, doing things she enjoyed rather than just enforcing rules and discipline. We went on weekend trips to the countryside, where she could take pictures and I could relax and enjoy her company. These trips became a way for us to reconnect and build a stronger bond. My ex-husband, sensing the gravity of the situation, also started to step up. He made more of an effort to call Lily regularly and even visited a few times. Their relationship was still strained, but it was a step in the right direction. Lily needed to feel that both her parents cared about her, even if we were no longer together.
Despite the improvements, the underlying issues still lingered. Lily's need for validation and acceptance was deep-rooted, and I knew it would take time for her to fully heal. I continued taking her to therapy, and I also started attending sessions on my own to learn better ways to support her.
One of the hardest parts of this journey was dealing with my own feelings of guilt and failure. I often wondered where I had gone wrong, what I could have done differently to prevent Lily from seeking out such dangerous paths. It took a lot of self-reflection and support from my own therapist to realize that I wasn't solely to blame. Parenting is incredibly challenging, and sometimes kids make choices that we can't control, no matter how much we love them. Through therapy, I learned to forgive myself and to focus on the present and future, rather than dwelling on past mistakes. This shift in mindset helped me become a more patient and understanding mother, which in turn helped Lily feel more secure and supported.
I also reached out to support groups for parents of troubled teens. Hearing other parents' stories and struggles made me feel less alone and provided me with new strategies to try at home. It was comforting to know that I wasn't the only one facing these challenges, and that there was a community of people who understood what I was going through.
Update 2. As months passed, Lily's behavior continued to improve. She started bringing friends over to the house, and I got to know them better. These friendships seemed healthier, with kids her own age who shared her interests and weren't looking to exploit her vulnerability. One evening, as we were having dinner together, Lily looked at me and said, "Mom, I know I've put you through a lot, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to do better." Her words brought tears to my eyes. It was the first time she had acknowledged the pain and worry she had caused, and it felt like a significant step towards healing.
Our journey is far from over, and I know there will be more challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. Lily is starting to find her way, and our relationship is growing stronger each day. To those of you reading this, especially parents going through similar struggles, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. How have you managed to reconnect with your teenagers? What strategies have worked for you? And if you're someone who went through a rebellious phase as a teenager, what helped you come out of it? Any advice or shared experiences would be greatly appreciated. Story 2. I married a monster, and she makes my life so hard.
I'm really struggling right now and need to share my story in hopes of finding some guidance. My name is James, and I'm 34. I've been married to my wife Laura for 3 years, and we dated for 4 years before tying the knot. When we first met, I was absolutely captivated by her. Laura was everything I could have ever wanted in a partner. Smart, funny, beautiful, and incredibly kind. I thought I had hit the jackpot. We met at a mutual friend's party. I remember that night vividly. Laura walked into the room, and it was like everything else faded into the background. She had this radiant smile and a laugh that was infectious. We started talking, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. We spent the entire night getting to know each other, sharing stories about our lives, our dreams, and our favorite books and movies. By the end of the night, I was smitten. Our dating life was like something out of a fairy tale. We went on spontaneous road trips, tried out new restaurants, and spent lazy Sundays reading books together in the park. Laura was thoughtful and caring, always surprising me with little notes or my favorite coffee. We talked about everything and anything, and I truly felt understood and valued. Our relationship was built on a strong foundation of mutual respect and love, or so I thought. After 4 wonderful years of dating, I proposed to Laura during a weekend getaway in the mountains. She said yes, and we started planning our future together. Our wedding was a beautiful, intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. It was one of the happiest days of my life, and I was excited to start this new chapter with her. The first year of marriage was great. We were in our honeymoon phase, enjoying each other's company and dreaming about the future. We talked about starting a family, buying a house, and all the adventures we still wanted to have. Laura was supportive of my career, and I was equally supportive of hers. We were a team, and it felt like nothing could ever come between us. But then, slowly, things began to change. It started with small, almost imperceptible shifts. Laura began criticizing me for minor things, leaving a dish in the sink, not folding the laundry the way she liked, or forgetting to pick up milk on my way home. At first, I brushed it off, thinking she was just having a bad day. But these incidents became more frequent, and her tone more harsh. She started calling me names and making derogatory comments about my abilities and intelligence. It felt like I could do nothing right. The stress of her constant criticism is eating away at me. I've lost weight, I can't sleep, and my performance at work is suffering. My friends and family have noticed, but I've been too ashamed to admit what's really going on at home. They remember the Laura from the beginning of our relationship, the one who was so loving and kind. I can't bring myself to tell them that the woman I married has become someone I barely recognize. There are still bright sides to our marriage, though. Laura can be incredibly charming and loving when she wants to be. There are moments when she'll cook a special dinner, plan a fun weekend trip, or just cuddle on the couch watching movies. It's in those moments that I see a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, and it gives me hope. But those moments are becoming rarer. It's hard to reconcile the two sides of Laura, the sweet, loving woman I married, and the cruel, critical person she's become. I've tried talking to her about how her behavior is affecting me, but it always ends in a fight. She turns it around on me, saying I'm too sensitive or that I'm blowing things out of proportion. She insists that if I just tried harder or did things her way, everything would be fine. I'm starting to think about divorce, but I'm scared. I don't know how to bring it up to her, and I fear her reaction. She's become so unpredictable, and I'm worried about what she might do. I feel trapped in this marriage, and I'm losing hope that things will ever get better. I never imagined that my life would turn out like this. I'm reaching out here because I don't know where else to turn. How do I approach this? How do I tell her that I'm thinking about ending our marriage without provoking a negative reaction? Has anyone else been through something similar? I feel so isolated and confused, and I could really use some advice. Update 1. 1 month later. Hey everyone! Thank you for all the support and advice on my previous post. It's been a month since I last updated, and things have been both better and worse. I managed to talk to Laura about seeing a marriage counselor, and surprisingly, she agreed. I thought this might be a turning point, but it hasn't been as smooth as I hoped. Our first few sessions with the counselor were eye-opening. Laura acknowledged some of her behavior, but seemed more focused on my failings and how I make her act the way she does. The counselor pointed out that it's never one person's fault in a relationship and that we both need to work on our communication and understanding. Laura nodded along, but seemed less than convinced. After the initial sessions, Laura's behavior improved slightly. She was more attentive and less critical, and for a while, I felt a glimmer of hope. We even had a few good weekends where we reconnected and enjoyed each other's company, just like old times. But these improvements were short-lived. Last week, things took a turn for the worse. We had a big argument about something trivial. Honestly, I can't even remember what started it. Laura exploded, yelling and calling me names. She said things that were incredibly hurtful, attacking my character and belittling my feelings. I was stunned. It was like all the progress we had made in counseling vanished in an instant. Since then, Laura has been cold and distant. She goes out with her friends more often and comes home late, barely speaking to me. When I try to talk to her, she shuts me down or walks away. I'm starting to feel like I'm living with a stranger.
Despite the setbacks, I've been trying to focus on self-care. I've started working out again, and I'm making an effort to eat healthier and get enough sleep. I've also reconnected with some old friends and found solace in talking to them. They've been incredibly supportive and have encouraged me to think about my own happiness and well-being. I'm still terrified at the thought of divorce, but it's becoming clearer to me that I can't continue living like this. I deserve to be happy and to be with someone who respects and values me. I've been reading a lot about emotional abuse and realizing that what I'm experiencing is not normal or acceptable. It's hard to come to terms with that, but it's also empowering to acknowledge it.
I haven't made any final decisions yet, but I'm starting to see that I have options. I've reached out to a lawyer to get some information about the divorce process, just in case. It's scary, but I feel a bit more in control knowing that I have a plan.
Thank you again for all your support. I'll keep you updated as things progress. If anyone has been through a similar situation, I'd love to hear your stories and any advice you might have. Update 2. 3 months later.
Hi everyone.
I wanted to give you another update. It's been a challenging few months, but I'm making progress. After our last big fight, things between Laura and me have been tense. She's been more distant than ever, and it feels like we're living separate lives under the same roof.
I've continued to see the therapist on my own, and it's been incredibly helpful. She's helped me understand that I can't change Laura's behavior, but I can change how I respond to it. We've been working on setting boundaries and building my confidence. It's a slow process, but I'm starting to feel more empowered.
I've also been spending more time with friends and family. I opened up to my parents about what's been going on, and they were shocked and supportive. My mom has been a rock for me, offering advice and a listening ear whenever I need it. It's comforting to know that I'm not alone in this. Laura and I had another serious talk a few weeks ago. I told her how unhappy I've been, and that I'm considering divorce if things don't improve. She was angry at first, accusing me of giving up too easily and not trying hard enough. But then she broke down and admitted that she's been struggling with her own issues: stress at work, feelings of inadequacy, and unresolved anger from her past. It was the first time in a long time that I saw a glimpse of the vulnerable, loving woman I married.
We decided to give counseling another try, this time with individual sessions in addition to couples therapy. Laura has started seeing a therapist on her own, and it seems to be helping her understand and manage her emotions better. Our couples sessions have become more productive, and we're slowly learning to communicate without resorting to blame and anger. There are still good days and bad days, but I'm feeling more hopeful. Laura has made a genuine effort to be more understanding and less critical, and I've been working on being more assertive and setting clear boundaries. It's not easy, and there are times when I wonder if it's worth it, but we're both trying.
I've also taken up some new hobbies to help me cope with the stress. I joined a local hiking group, and it's been great to get outdoors and clear my mind. I've also started taking cooking classes, something I've always wanted to do. These activities have given me a sense of purpose and joy outside of my marriage. I'm still scared about the future, but I'm also starting to see that I have the strength to face whatever comes my way. Whether Laura and I can make our marriage work or not, I know I'll be okay. I've realized that my happiness and well-being are important, and I'm committed to taking care of myself.
Thank you all for your continued support and advice. Your comments and messages have meant the world to me. I'll keep you updated as things progress. If anyone has more advice or similar experiences to share, I'd love to hear from you.
Update 3. 6 months later. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have been going. It's been 6 months of ups and downs, but I've made some important decisions about my future. After months of counseling and trying to work on our marriage, Laura and I had a long, heartfelt conversation. We both realized that despite our efforts, we're not the same people we were when we first got together. The love we once had has been overshadowed by resentment and hurt, and it's clear that we're both unhappy. Laura admitted that she's been feeling trapped as well, and we both agreed that it might be best to part ways amicably. It was a painful decision, but also a relief. We decided to start the divorce process and focus on moving forward separately. The past few weeks have been tough. We're still living in the same house while we figure out the logistics of our separation, and it's been emotionally draining. However, there's also a sense of peace knowing that we're both on the path to finding our own happiness. I've continued my therapy sessions, and they've been a lifeline for me. My therapist has helped me navigate the complex emotions of ending a marriage and has encouraged me to focus on my personal growth. I've learned so much about myself and what I need in a relationship.
Laura and I are working on maintaining a civil relationship as we go through the divorce process. It's not easy, but we're both committed to handling this with as much grace and respect as possible. We've agreed to sell the house and split the proceeds, and we're dividing our belongings fairly.
Looking back, I can see how much I've grown through this experience. I've reconnected with old friends, strengthened my relationship with my family, and found new passions that bring me joy. I'm no longer the same person who felt trapped and hopeless in his marriage. I'm stronger, more self-assured, and ready to embrace whatever comes next. I want to thank everyone who has supported me through this journey. Your advice, encouragement, and shared stories have been incredibly helpful. I've learned that it's okay to ask for help, and that there's a whole community out there ready to offer support.
As I move into this new chapter of my life, I'm hopeful. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I'm confident that I can face them. For anyone going through a similar situation, know that you're not alone. It's okay to prioritize your happiness and well-being. Sometimes, the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the most growth. Thank you again for all your support. I'll keep you posted as I continue this journey. If anyone has more advice or wants to share their own experiences, I'd love to hear from you.
Story 3.
My husband blew all college money on a car he crashed without insurance. My name is Karen, and I'm 42. I've been married to my husband, Dave, for 20 years. We have a son, Matt, who's 18 and just started his freshman year of college. This was supposed to be an exciting time for our family, but instead, we're facing a crisis that I never saw coming.
A little background. Dave has always had a bit of a drinking problem. When we first got married, it was manageable. He'd have a few beers after work or drink a bit too much at parties, but it never seemed out of control. As the years went by, his drinking gradually increased. He started using alcohol as a way to cope with stress, and before I knew it, it had become a daily habit. I tried talking to him about it numerous times, but he always brushed it off, saying he had it under control. Despite this, we've always tried to be good parents to Matt. We've saved diligently for his college education since he was born. Every birthday, every Christmas bonus, every tax refund, we put a little away, and over the years, it added up. By the time Matt graduated high school, we had saved up around $20,000. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but it was a solid start, and with scholarships and financial aid, we figured we could manage the rest.
Matt got into his dream school, and we were all thrilled. It felt like all our sacrifices had paid off. We dropped him off at college a few months ago, and it was one of the proudest moments of our lives. But then, everything started to unravel. A few weeks ago, Dave came home with a brand new car. I was shocked. We hadn't talked about buying a new car, and I couldn't understand how we could afford it. When I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said he got a great deal. I didn't press the issue at the time because I didn't want to start a fight, but I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. That feeling turned into full-blown panic a few days later when I checked our bank account. The $20,000 we had saved for Matt's college was gone. Every last penny. I confronted Dave, and after some prodding, he admitted he had used the money to buy the car. He said he was tired of driving his old beater and wanted something nice for a change. I was furious. We had worked so hard to save that money, and he had blown it all on a whim. As if that wasn't bad enough, the worst was yet to come. Last week, Dave got into an accident. He had been drinking and took the new car out for a drive. He ended up crashing it into a tree. Thankfully, no one else was involved, and he wasn't seriously injured, but the car was totaled. And to make matters worse, he hadn't insured it yet, so now we're out $20,000, with no car to show for it, and a huge problem on our hands. Matt's tuition bill is due next month, and without that money, we can't pay it. If we don't come up with the funds, he's going to be kicked out of school. I can't bear the thought of that happening. Matt has worked so hard to get where he is, and I can't let Dave's recklessness ruin his future. I've tried talking to Dave about how we're going to fix this, but he's been no help. He's been drinking even more since the accident, and he seems to be in a constant state of denial. Whenever I bring up the money or the car, he either gets defensive or completely shuts down. It's like he doesn't understand the gravity of what he's done. I've been scrambling to find a solution. I've looked into loans, but our credit isn't great, and we're already stretched thin financially. I've thought about asking family for help, but I'm too ashamed to admit what's happened. I've even considered selling some of our belongings, but I'm not sure it would be enough. I feel so lost and alone. I don't know how to fix this, and I don't know how to get through to Dave. I love him, but his drinking and irresponsible behavior are destroying our family. I'm terrified for Matt and what this could mean for his future. He's such a good kid, and he deserves so much better than this. The past few days have been a blur of stress and anxiety. I've barely slept, and I can't focus on anything. My mind is constantly racing, trying to figure out how to solve this mess. I've tried reaching out to Dave's family for support, hoping they might be able to talk some sense into him, but they've been surprisingly unhelpful. They've always enabled his behavior to some extent, and now it feels like they're washing their hands of the situation. In a moment of desperation, I decided to talk to Matt about what's going on. It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. I didn't want to burden him with our problems, especially when he's just starting college, but I felt like he deserved to know the truth. I explained everything, about the money, the car, and Dave's drinking. Matt was shocked and angry, but also incredibly understanding. He told me he didn't blame me, and that we'd find a way to get through this together. Matt suggested that he could take a leave of absence from school and work for a while to help save up the money. The thought of him having to put his education on hold breaks my heart, but it's a testament to what a great kid he is. He's always been so responsible and mature, and I hate that he has to deal with the consequences of his father's actions. I've also reached out to a support group for families of alcoholics. Talking to others who've been through similar experiences has been somewhat comforting. They've offered advice and shared their own stories of struggle and resilience. It's helping me realize that I'm not alone and that there are steps I can take to protect myself and Matt.
One of the hardest parts of all this is trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. I still have to go to work, pay the bills, and take care of the house. It feels like I'm living a double life, trying to keep everything together on the outside while I'm falling apart on the inside. My coworkers have noticed that I've been more stressed lately, but I haven't felt comfortable sharing the full story with them. It's embarrassing to admit how out of control things have gotten. As I sit here writing this, Dave is passed out on the couch. He's been drinking since noon, and it's only 8 p.m. I look at him and feel a mix of anger, sadness, and pity. This isn't the man I married. The man I married was kind, ambitious, and full of life. Alcohol has turned him into a shell of his former self, and I don't know if I can keep waiting for him to change. Part of me feels guilty for even considering leaving him. I took vows to love and support him in sickness and in health, for better or worse. But at what point do I have to prioritize my own well-being and that of our son? How much longer can I put up with this destructive behavior before it completely tears our family apart? I've started looking into options for getting Matt's tuition covered. There are emergency financial aid options through his school, but they're limited and not guaranteed. I've also been researching scholarships and grants that he might be eligible for, but many of the deadlines have already passed. We're running out of time, and I'm running out of options. It's hard to believe that just a few months ago, we were celebrating Matt's high school graduation and looking forward to the future. Now everything feels so uncertain and bleak. I keep replaying the events of the past few weeks in my head, wondering if there was something I could have done differently to prevent all this. But deep down, I know that Dave's drinking and irresponsible behavior are beyond my control. I've also been thinking a lot about our marriage. I don't want to give up on Dave, but I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness and stability for someone who refuses to change. I've been reading about tough love and the importance of setting boundaries with an alcoholic partner. It's clear that I need to take a stand, for my sake and for Matt's. The idea of confronting Dave and setting ultimatums is terrifying. He's not violent, but he can be very defensive and manipulative when he feels cornered. I'm worried about how he'll react, but I know I can't keep avoiding this conversation. I need to make it clear that things have to change, and if he's not willing to get help, I'll have to consider separating from him. As much as it pains me to think about breaking up our family, I have to face the reality of our situation. Matt's future is at stake, and I can't let Dave's actions jeopardize his education and opportunities. I've always believed in the importance of family and sticking together, but there comes a point when you have to protect yourself and your child.
I've been praying for strength and guidance, trying to find the courage to do what needs to be done. I'm scared, but I know I can't keep living like this. I have to be strong for Matt and for myself. We deserve better than this chaos and uncertainty.
If anyone reading this has been through a similar situation, I'd love to hear your advice. How did you handle an alcoholic partner? How did you protect your child's future while dealing